Good morning. So, happy Monday, and I hope you guys have finished up your enzyme labs. Those were due today, so make sure that's turned in and submitted on Classroom. At home, what you guys are working on is doing the cell respiration overview POGO. They are also doing that in class today, and I'm going to be talking through it with them. Tomorrow, while you guys are working on the lab, I will talk through the POGO stuff with you. So go through it today. If you want to create some Zooms and work together on it, that's a great idea. And you can kind of get things going that way. The other thing you're doing is there is a homework. It's 9.1. It's on redox reactions, looking at anabolic and catabolic reactions. So make sure that you're taking a look at those. So the POGO is on the Classroom. And when you're there, you'll just open it. It's just like all the other ones where you make sure you read and answer the questions and think through what's happening there. The diagram that's on it is really nice for seeing an overview of this whole process of cellular respiration. And that's what we're going to spend this next week, really 2 weeks, looking at is this whole process. So please be sure to read the diagram or the paragraphs above the diagrams. Really look at the diagrams, and you can annotate the diagrams and kind of note things as you're going through and answering the questions. But this is a really good summary of everything that's happening. So I'll talk through this with you tomorrow in class. But as you're looking at it, make sure that you're noting the different processes. So this is the overview, and then we'll spend some time on each process separately. So the first part up here is the glycolysis. We've seen that word lysis before. It means to break. So think about what's happening here. For glycolysis, we've got glucose as the reactant, and then the 2-pyruvate as the product. And this pyruvate only has 3 carbons in it. So we've taken glucose and split it in half. And then the pyruvate is moving into the mitochondria. So this is your whole mitochondria here. And this is the cristae, that folded membrane. And the Krebs cycle is happening on the innermost part of the mitochondria and the matrix there. And it's a cycle because there's lots of reactions happening, and the end product becomes the beginning of the next cycle. So we'll talk about that quite a bit more on Thursday, on Friday, and then you'll see what's going on there. And then from there, this is happening on this membrane. So this is the membrane of the cristae, that inner membrane of the mitochondria, and this is where you see the oxygen coming in. It's doing the phosphorylation and generating ATP. So this is the electron transport chain. This is a protein called ATP synthase, and that's where the actual ATP is produced. This is an electron transport chain. It's going to move electrons through it, and we will dig into that some more also on Friday. The other thing when you're looking at this diagram, notice the products and things that are coming out and then where they're being used. So remember we talked about coenzymes before, and I mentioned I would talk to you some more about that. These are all coenzymes. So this NADH and the FADH2 are coenzymes. They're actually getting enzymes from glucose and hydrogens, and they're moving them along. Here they're getting it from the pyruvate, and then here they're getting it from the carbons that were in this glucose initially from this acetyl that are moving their way through these reactions. Electrons get pulled off again. So essentially, as we go from glucose to carbon dioxide, we're stripping electrons and stripping hydrogens. Electrons and hydrogens being stored in this NADH, FADH2, and then they end up in the electron transport chain where the electrons generate energy and hydrogens build up a gradient so that ATP synthase can do its work, because it works. They need a hydrogen gradient. So the electrons pump hydrogens like an active transport into the hydrogen, into this inner space out here, so that we have this gradient of hydrogens that flow through the ATP synthase. And this is the reaction that you should know from 9th grade, but it's a lot more complex than this, and so that's what you're starting to look at here. So we'll talk about that in more detail in class, but I just wanted to give you kind of an overview of it. So work your way through the questions, draw on, add to, annotate this diagram, and then I will see you on Tuesday. Have a great day.